r/AskReddit, what's the best joke you know? A lot of people tell me I've got an addiction to brake fluid. Truth is I can stop at any time. I've got one. This reminds me of the man who was driving down the road and his car breaks down near a monastery. He goes to the monastery, knocks on the door, and says, "My car broke down, do you think I could stay the night?" The monks graciously accept him, feed him dinner, and even fix his car. As the man tries to fall asleep, he hears a strange sound, a sound unlike anything he's ever heard before. The sirens that nearly seduced Odysseus into crashing his ship comes to his mind. He doesn't sleep that night. He tosses and turns trying to figure out what could possibly be making such a seductive sound. The next morning, he asks the monks what the sound was, but they say, "We can't tell you, you're not a monk." Distraught, the man is forced to leave. Years later, after never being able to forget that sound, the man goes back to the monastery and pleads for the answer again. The monks reply, "We can't tell you, you're not a monk." The man says, "If the only way I can find out what is making that beautiful sound is to become a monk, then please, make me a monk." The monks reply, "You must travel the earth and tell us how many blades of grass there are and the exact number of grains of sand. When you find these answers, you will have become a monk." The man sets about his task. After years of searching he returns as a gray-haired old man and knocks on the door of the monastery. A monk answers. He is taken before a gathering of all the monks. "In my quest to find what makes that beautiful sound, I traveled the earth and have found what you asked for. By design, the world is in a state of perpetual change. Only God knows what you ask. All a man can know is himself, and only then if he is honest and reflective and willing to strip away self-deception." The monks reply, "Congratulations, you have become a monk. We shall now show you the way to the mystery of the sacred sound." The monks lead the man to a wooden door, where the head monk says, "The sound is beyond that door." The monks give him the key, and he opens the door. Behind the wooden door is another door made of stone. The man is given the key to the stone door and he opens it, only to find a door made of ruby. And so it went that he needed keys to doors of emerald, pearl, and diamond. Finally, they come to a door made of solid gold. The sound has become very clear and definite. The monks say, "This is the last key to the last door." The man is apprehensive. His life's wish is behind that door. With trembling hands, he unlocks the door, turns the knob, and slowly pushes the door open. Falling to his knees, he is utterly amazed to discover the source of that haunting and seductive sound. "But, of course, I can't tell you what it is because you're not a monk." Why do scuba divers fall out of the boat backwards? Because if they fell forwards they'd still be in the boat. This is a really dumb one but I love it. Two men are sitting drinking at a bar at the top of the Empire State Building, when the first man turns to the other and says, "You know, last week I discovered that if you jump from the top of this building, the winds around the building are so intense that by the time you fall to the 10th floor, they carry you around the building and back into a window." The bartender just shakes his head in disapproval while wiping the bar. The second guy says, "What, are you nuts? There's no way that could happen." "No, it's true." The first man says, "Let me prove it to you." He gets up from the bar, jumps over the balcony, and plummets toward the street below. As he nears the 10th floor, the high winds whip him around the building and back into the 10th floor window and he takes the elevator back up to the bar. He meets the second man, who looks quite astonished. "You know, I saw that with my own eyes, but that must have been a one-time fluke." "No, I'll prove it again," says the first man as he jumps again. Just as he is hurtling toward the street, the 10th floor wind gently carries him around the building and into the window. Once upstairs he urges his fellow drinker to try it. "Well, why not?" the second guy says. "It works, I'll try it." He jumps over the balcony, plunges downward, passes the 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th floors, and hits the sidewalk with a splat. Back upstairs the bartender turns to the other drinker and says, "You know, Superman, you're a real jerk when you're drunk." What's the difference between an oral thermometer and a rectal thermometer? The taste. Why don't you ever see elephants hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it? Much more fun to say out loud than type. But two whales walk into a bar. The bartender asks, "What can I get for you two?" One whale goes, "Oh oh 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 oh. I try for Dory's humpback whale impersonation here." The second whale, "Go home Frank, you're drunk." What does a robot do during a one-night stand? He nuts and bolts. Not mine. But I think it belongs to my favorite ones. Doctor, will I be okay? I don't know. Mercury is in Uranus right now. I don't do astronomy, doc. Me neither. My thermometer just broke. Did you hear about the cheese factory in France that exploded? Debris was everywhere. Hey, race a classic. So a grandpa takes his grandson out fishing. The grandpa pulls out a smoke and lights it. The kid asks, hey grandpa, can I have one? And he says, does your dick touch your ass? And the kid says, well no, and grandpa says, there's your answer, you're too young. Then grandpa pulls out some whiskey and takes a few pulls off the bottle. Kid asks, hey, could I have a drink of that, grandpa? And grandpa says, does your dick touch your ass? Well, no it doesn't, says the kid. Grandpa says, well there's your answer. So the kid pulls out some cookies and starts snacking away on them, and grandpa says, gee kiddo, those cookies look pretty good, could I have one? So the kid says, does your dick touch your ass? And grandpa says, why yes it does. And the kid says, good, you can go fuck yourself then. Not mine. Dave knows everyone there is to know. Dave was bragging to his boss one day, you know, I know everyone there is to know, just name someone, anyone, and I'll know them. Tired of his boasting, his boss called his bluff. Okay, Dave, how about Tom Cruise? No dramas, boss. Tom and I are old friends, and I can prove it. So Dave and his boss fly out to Hollywood and knock on Tom Cruise's door, and Tom Cruise shouts, Dave, what's happening? Great to see you, come on in for a beer. Although impressed, Dave's boss is still skeptical. After they leave Cruise's house, he says that he thinks Dave's knowing Cruise was just lucky. No, just name anyone else. Dave says, President Obama. His boss quickly retorts, yup. Dave says, old buddies, let's fly out to Washington. And off they go. At the White House, Obama spots Dave on the tour and motions him and his boss over, saying, Dave, what a surprise. I was just on my way to a meeting, but you and your friend come on in and let's have a cup of coffee first and catch up. Well, the boss is very shaken by now, but still not totally convinced. After they leave the White House grounds, he expresses his doubts to Dave, who again implores him to name anyone else. The Pope. His boss replies, sure, says Dave, my folks are from Germany, and I've known the Pope a long time. So off they fly to Rome. Dave and his boss are assembled with the masses in Vatican Square when Dave says, this will never work. I can't catch the Pope's eye among all these people. Tell you what, I know all the guards, so let me just go upstairs and I'll come out on the balcony with the Pope. And he disappears into the crowd headed toward the Vatican. Sure enough, half an hour later Dave emerges with the Pope on the balcony, but by the time Dave returns, he finds that his boss has had a heart attack and is surrounded by paramedics. Working his way to his boss' side, Dave asks him, what happened? His boss looks up and says, I was doing fine until you and the Pope came out on the balcony, and the man next to me said, who the F asterisk hashtag K's that on the balcony with Dave? I was in the office today and the cleaning lady asked if I wanted to smoke weed with her after work. I turned her down. I don't really like high maintenance women. I can't wait to not remember a single one of these when I'd actually like to tell one. A New York stockbroker finally cashes in and decides to retire, so he buys a ranch in Montana. On day one he's working on the fence, and in a cloud of dust down the road comes a pickup truck and it pulls up beside him. Out jumps a big strapping ranch cowboy. Howdy partner, I am your nearest neighbor from down the road a piece. Came by to say hello and invite you to a party I'm having Saturday night. Well, that's very nice of you. I'd be glad to attend, says the stockbroker. The big cowboy cocks his hat and says, well, I should tell you there's going to be some drinking. The stockbroker says, well, I've been known to enjoy a good martini or two. The cowboy then says, okay, well, I should warn you, there might be some fighting. This takes the stockbroker back a little bit, but he replies, well, I am from New York. I have seen my share of fights. Okay then, says the cowboy as he's getting back into the truck. One more thing, there's going to be some sex. The stockbroker replies, well, okay, say, what should I wear? Cowboy says, oh heck, it don't matter, just going to be you and me. Four older gents who were college buddies met for dinner for the first time in 20 years. After ordering, one of the men got up to use the bathroom. One of the men boasted about his son. My son's so successful, he started at the bottom valeting cars, worked and saved money, and he just started his second dealership. For his friend's birthday he bought him a Maserati. All the men clapped and nodded. The next man said about his son, my son's so smart, he started as a junior aircraft technician at a small charter, put himself through engineering, and he has his own private jet company with millions in revenue. For a friend's birthday he bought his friend a twin-engine turboprop. Again all the men wiped tears from their eyes. The third man said about his son, my son is a hard worker, he started mowing lawns and went into trades. He is the president of a company that builds subdivisions. For his buddy's birthday he gave his friend a new house. All the men clapped and sat back enjoying their son's accomplishments. The fourth man came back, sat down, and asked why they were crying. After finding out, he said, yeah, you wouldn't believe it, but my son's a male stripper and his birthday was last month and 3 of his clients gifted him a car, a plane, and a house. 2 nuns were sitting on a park bench when a naked man runs by. One of the nuns had a stroke, the other couldn't reach. Stalin is sitting at his desk busy with paperwork when his assistant bursts into the room and says, Comrade Stalin, there is a clairvoyant here that wants to see you. He claims he can see the future. Send him to Gulag, says Stalin. If he could see the future he wouldn't have come here. What did the fish say when it hit the wall? Damn, my uncle's only joke. A Buddhist walks up to a hot dog vendor and says, make me one with everything. Bonus for philosophy nerds. Descartes walks into a bar. The bartender says, hey, Descartes, I just got this new import beer in. Want to try it? Descartes says, I think not, and he vanishes into thin air. I mixed up the words jacuzzi and yakuza and now I'm in hot water with the Japanese mafia. In early 20th century Ireland, a man is drinking at a bar. The barkeep informs all the patrons that it's closing time, and the man gets down from his bar stool only to fall flat on his face. The other patrons all rush to his aid, but he refuses and says, I'll be fine if I can just make it to the door. So he crawls to the door, tries to stand up, but falls on his face again. Again the patrons try to assist him, but he waved them off saying, I'll be fine if I can just make it to me house. His house is right next to the bar, and he crawls through the dirt to the front door, pulls himself up and falls down to the floor. A few patrons that followed him insist on helping him, but again he refuses, declaring, I'll be fine if I can just get to me bed. So he crawls to the bed, pulls himself up, and gets in, falling asleep instantly. The next morning, the man's wife wakes him, shouting, you were at that bar again last night, weren't ya? How'd you know that? He asks, because you left your wheelchair there again. Yeah, fool. Edit, to make it more sectioned. A man goes to a funeral. He asks the widow if he could say a word. He goes to the front and says plethora and sits back down. The widow leans over and whispers, thanks, that means a lot. Edit, thank you everyone, I gladly will add on your lines when I retell this joke. You have all made my day brighter. 2 guys are walking down the street when they see a dog licking his balls. One guy says, I wish I could do that. The other replies, well, maybe just try petting him first. A penguin is on a long, deserved vacation from the zoo. He decides to take a road trip out west, where his car breaks down. Luckily, it's right in front of a mechanic in town. He drops the car off and tells the mechanic he's going to get some lunch. It's a really hot day, so after eating he stops by the ice cream shop for a little treat. Walking back to his car, the mechanic tells the penguin, it looks like you blew a seal. The penguin laughs. Oh, no, he said, as he wiped his mouth, it's just ice cream. I had a song stuck in my head the other day and kept singing it out loud. My wife finally broke down and screamed, will you please stop singing Wonderwall? I said maybe. Dad, the trashman's here, tell him we don't need any. People are shocked when they find out what a terrible electrician I am. A proctologist walks into a bank. He needs to sign a document. He tries to sign, but he pulls a thermometer out of his shirt pocket. Oh shit, some asshole has my pen. A man sat down at a bar and told the bartender, I bet you $300 that I can piss into the cup all the way over there on the other side of the bar and not miss a single drop. The bartender said, there is no way you can do that. Sure, I'll bet you $300. The man then begins to undo his pants and begins pissing. He starts pissing all over the bar, spraying on the bottles and the bartender, not making a single drop in the cup. The bartender starts smiling and laughing and says, that's it, you owe me $300. The man then gets up and walks over to the pool table and starts laughing and shaking hands with the men standing there. He walks back to bar, sits down, and starts laughing at the bartender and hands him the money. The bartender asks, "Why are you laughing? You just lost the bet." The man said, "I'm laughing because I bet those guys over there $1,000 that I could piss all over you and your bar and you would still be laughing when I was done." What did the sign on the door of the brothel say? Beat it, we're closed. Two windmills are standing in a field when one asks what's your favorite type of music, the other says I'm a big metal fan. A guy gets a tapeworm from his meal one day. He goes and visits doctor after doctor to get rid of the worm to no avail. Every doctor just dismisses him, none are able to get this thing out. He visits another doctor and finally gets a recommendation: go and see the old doctor up the road. His methods are odd but he always seems to get the trick done. The man, having lost all hope, goes to see the old doctor. He tells him of his issue and the old doctor tells him to come back tomorrow, and to bring an apple and a cookie. He comes back the next day with the foods, and the doctor asks the man to lean against the table. The doctor then shoves the apple up the man's ass, followed by the cookie. Shocked, the man asks why he would do such a thing. The doctor pays no mind, only to request the man repeat the request tomorrow. Having had no luck anywhere else, the man obliges. The next day, the same thing happens, apple followed by the cookie, both shoved up the man's ass. The doctor then asks the man to bring both foods along with a hammer. The man gets very worried but thinks it can't get any worse. The third day the man braces himself. The doctor shoves the apple straight up the man's ass yet again. He grabs the hammer next. But then he waits. The man is tense. The doctor keeps still and continues to wait. All of a sudden the tapeworm sticks his head out of the man's ass. "Where the hell is my cookie? I went to the zoo and saw a baguette in a cage. I asked the zookeeper about it, and he told me it was bred in captivity." Thanks for watching. Comment suggestions for any future videos and make sure to subscribe to not miss out on any more good content. I upload daily videos from r/AskReddit, and if you like the video, make sure to like the video.